his behavior was, terrible. And, I wish him, just as being a fellow human being, we're all struggling with, different demons that he's, can struggle with his and come out the other side. I don't know.
What Harvey did is wrong, I'd like to think there's redemption for people, I'd like to think that there's a second chapter in people's lives, I'd like to see him do that. I've known Harvey for years, but that shit can't stand. And we have to call it out, and even if it's in our own community,
For me, one thing that really struck me is I read some piece that was saying, and even a couple actresses that had tweeted, like, that other actresses, that their silence was deafening, and that there was this desire for people to come forward and speak about their experiences, which I think is useful. But I thought, what about men? What about men in the conversation?
We need to use this moment to create a world without Harveys. I mean, this brings up such massive issues that need to be addressed, especially in this industry. The lack of power that women have, the number of executives that I've had meetings with over the years in Hollywood that have had women at the top in the position of being the executive in charge of really making the decision. It's so rare that happens. That's what has to change.
The thing I hope that happens is that people, look, you don't want anyone to want to sexually harass anybody or sexually abuse anybody, and you want them to not have to quash that instinct. But hopefully, if people do have that instinct after this, they will be going like, well, I won't get away with it.
How do we move forward after Harvey Weinstein? I think, thank God it's all coming out. It's horrific, and thank God it's coming to the fore, and people are, these incredible women are feeling brave enough to be able to come forward and say something about it. And hopefully it means that, people in his position will think twice before they abuse their power so horrendously, and it'll change that way, and we can talk about it openly, and people can, God willing, this means this can be the end of this kind of, terrible abuse.
Growing up in Hollywood, I've experienced that a lot. I think definitely when someone is in power, they're able to do that. So I think it's really brave of these women to be speaking out and helping start a movement to stop this, because it happens way too often.
All of this, we begin to understand that that's all. For women to be able to stand up and be open, that takes such courage, and they deserve all the credit. And in this case, I think the right thing is happening, and I just hope maybe it's opened awareness a little bit more for people to understand how difficult it is when you're in that position as a woman, as a young woman, as a vulnerable woman, as a woman who needs a job.
Every working girl, I feel, in any industry or the other has in some form of the other dealt with intimidation by powerful men or men in power, because that's norm. And it's okay, and it was all right, and somehow the girl is the problem, and she was asking for it, or if she didn't compromise, or if then her career is taken away from her, or she's kicked out of a film, or her job's taken away from her because she's replaceable. And I'm so amazed and so happy to be living in a world right now where I could commend these women who have come out there and stood up for each other, because women are always told to pull each other down because only one of us can survive. But now we're in a world where my generation is fighting so hard so that doesn't happen to the next generation.
It's a very important time, I think, right now in the history of our nation right now, to really have these conversations with not only your girls but your boys, and say, this is how you treat a woman, this is how you treat a woman. Or with the girls, this is when you stand up for yourself, this is when, whatever those lessons are.
Well, I think we need the industry to support women and say, if you come forward, we're going to support you. We're going to believe you. We can't live in this world that's like the Cosby situation where all these women come forward and no one does anything. Then it's 5 people, and 10 people, and 20 people, and 30 people, and it takes like 50 people before people think, oh, maybe Cosby did it. It should take one person.
What I say is talk about it. If you see something, say something. They talk about bags in airports that way. Let's talk about human behavior between one another.
Things are rigged to allow these things to happen, and they need to be de-rigged to stop it. It's not about case by case, it's a whole attitude. And I think that people that come forward need our support and love, and they need to be taken as seriously as you can in whatever your field is. It's not just movies, it's the world.
Blake, this way. And right here, Blake. Blake, straight up.
I think we realized how much further we have to go than we thought we did. We were just like a bit like, yeah, there's still far to go, but we're a bit on cruise control. Things are going well. And then suddenly we just were stabbed through the heart last year when a certain video came out talking about moving on women like a bitch. And I think that, or grab women by the pussy, I think that's a big problem. So that is across the board. So it's great that we're focusing on this one story, but we've got a lot of work to do, and just talking about it and making these stories. And people that are saying, we stand in solidarity. Well, stand in solidarity then. Tell stories about women. When women say, hey, this makes me feel uncomfortable, do something about it. Don't wait until they say, okay, I'm going to the legal department. I mean, there's just, it's just time for people to, listen.
And you know what? We're having the conversation, and I think that's the first step. And from here, I hope we can continue to step forward and move forward, and hopefully these conversations don't continue happening, because it's going to just be done.